Welcome to Sexy Sunday, where we analyze sex scenes from films and TV shows, discuss what they tell us about the story, the characters, and more importantly, whether they're hot or not. I'm Jessica.
I'm Anushka.
And this is Sexy Sunday.
Today we're talking about You, a psychological thriller series based on the books by Caroline Kepnes, developed by Greg Berlanti and Sarah Gamble in 2018. I really need to start checking how people pronounce their names before doing these. I never learn. There's 3 seasons so far. There's a 4th one coming. And Jess, do you want to take a guess at the number of sex scenes?
Oh, I'm going to go like 15. It felt quite sexy.
It's going to be way more. 36.
What?
Yeah.
36?
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Yeah. There's actually so much sex in it.
I feel like season 2 felt it was like a bit sex dry, but season 1 and then season 3 were very sex heavy. But I felt like, for me, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but it felt like there were less sex scenes in season 2.
Should have made a note of how many sex scenes per season. But give me your overall impressions, because you never watched the show before.
No, so this is my first time watching it, and I remember when it came out and I was so resistant to it because I was like, you're in the mind of like a manipulative man and stalker. Why would I want to know that? So I've just avoided it for the whole time. And I was, season 1, pleasantly surprised, really enjoyed it, found it very, very funny as well. Especially when you were like, think of it as Dan Humphrey in canon, as he's changed his name and he's now Joe Goldberg. That made it extra enjoyable.
It totally works. It totally checks out.
Yeah, besides his backstory, but
yeah. Just like Ruth who's gone dark.
Exactly. But then I like season 2 was I really liked Victoria Pedretti,
I think.
Pedretti. I really like her as an actress. I think she's beautiful, but I found her character I didn't enjoy their dynamic so much. And then season 3 was a struggle. I did not enjoy season 3. I just felt like the character of Joe was slowly diluted, and they didn't really know what to do with his character. But yeah, I really, as to say, I really, really enjoyed season 1. I was very much into it. But I wasn't into the character of Beck. Annoyed me. But I wish there was the character of Love in season 1. But yeah.
The actress actually auditioned for it.
No way.
And the actor who played Theo in season 3 auditioned for both the role of Joe and the role of 40.
No way. And also, I know you skipped through a lot of the scenes, but as someone who hates horror, I was so surprised at how much you enjoyed this.
Yeah, I have to, like, the first time I watched the show, like whenever a new season comes out, I have to watch it in fast forward and in small. If I see it in a tiny screen, somehow it's not scary. So I see what happens and then I can play the scene because I already know what's going to happen, but I need to know what happens before the scene is played. But yeah, so season 1, I kind of want to just get straight into the sex scenes. Should we just do that?
Go for it.
Okay, why do you think he comes so fast the first time he sleeps with Beck?
Oh, we're really getting into it. Because I feel like he hasn't, because season 1 Joe is like such a typical nice guy, like the one that you really fear, that I feel like he hasn't had sex with any other women, and he's been creating this huge fantasy of Beck that by the time that they actually have sex, that he's like, it all happens too quickly for him.
When him and Beck have sex in like when she comes to his, and I think that's the second time they have sex, after, like the first time after the time that doesn't really count, and he's got all of his stuff around his apartment and he has to hide everything. That's such a good scene. I don't think it's realistic that she wouldn't see anything. Like, that's impossible.
No. Like, I think it's a really well choreographed scene of just like how he's hiding everything. But I think she would definitely have opened her eyes at a certain point. But I will suspend my disbelief in that scene, because there is a moment where she does go to look, and he does and he's very good at like manipulating her, and I guess it also shows how good of a manipulator he is, and how Beck is so willing to fall for him because of like all the shit people in her life, and suddenly there's such a lovely man. Lovely man who is obsessed with her and is killing everyone that is close to her.
And also, Beck is just an idiot, and she deserves to have shit people in her life.
Hot take over here. Hot take.
I hate her so much, and I'm sorry, but she is an idiot, and she is being used by people. But I feel like she's also got like, she doesn't actually like any of the people she's hanging out with. Not for real. Like, maybe with Peach, she's got like a bit of a, like, she thinks her and Peach are actually friends. But the other two, like, she doesn't give a shit about them. She's just like hanging out with them because she wants to seem cool, and they seem like cool. And by cool, I'm using cool very loosely. I don't know. I think Beck is so pathetic. I just hate her.
Yeah, I don't really like Beck because all her motivations are like very self-indulgent. Yeah. Everything is very much motivated to like yes, it's through her art, but it's always her art for like her own fame and her own purposes, rather than like Love, who's in season 2 Love, not season 3 Love. Who is very giving and generous for generosity's sake. I think that's like why I found Beck so so difficult, was because everything was very dramatic with her, but drama for drama's sake. Like, she just was a very chaotic person, but obviously because of her, like what happened in her childhood and all of that, like that makes sense. But it was just like, it got a bit boring.
Also, Beck's social media sucks. No, she really is the kind of horrible person. What did she say? Like, when in doubt, mac and cheese. Like, I'm like, what? That doesn't even mean anything. Like, and you're calling yourself a writer. I'm so done with her. I just can't. Like, I don't even understand. I know that Joe is obviously going to go for a certain type of girls because, you know, if she doesn't need to be saved, if she doesn't have any trouble, then that's not really interesting to him. I understand that. But I feel like Beck was just so boring. It's like not even a challenge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if Beck didn't have Peach in her life, I feel like even Joe would have gone bored. Like, the only thing that kept it interesting was that Peach was like, or at least in the storyline, I feel like the only thing that made it interesting was that Peach was a direct rival, and she, in a slightly less creepy way, she was basically acting the same as Joe was towards Beck, and that made the rivalry really interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed when Joe discovers all the pictures on Peach's laptop, and he's like, Beck, you've got a stalker. That just made me laugh so much, because it's just like, that's how obviously unself-aware he is, and that's just what great. I think that's just what made You season 1 so good.
I agree. So obviously there's this whole thing about Beck like seemingly loving rough sex and having that spatula or whatever that she likes to get spanked with. Like, they're having such regular sex.
That's true. Do you think she's just, it's more that oh my god, what was the name of her ex?
Benji.
Do you think it was more of Benji's fantasies that he was pushing onto Beck rather than the other way around?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I would argue that like later in the season, after they've broken up and he like he's with Karen and then Beck shows up again, like though that montage of sex scenes and even that one where they're on the boat, like they're really hot and they're really like non-safe like sex, like especially when it's just up against the wall. And
that's true. I forgot about that montage. That is a really good one, actually.
Yes
but I'd say like I don't know, I just don't like Beck. I don't want to give her any credit.
Don't want to give her any of the sexiness.
But yeah, no, that's true. Also, you know how when they're drunk and they're at Peach's house and Joe is under the bed, which, by the way, I am obsessed with that scene where Peach is having sex with Raj and Joe has to listen to it all night. And also, what do we think about Peach? Like, is that what you thought she would be like in bed, to like peg boys? Were you surprised? Because I was surprised.
Were you? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't expect her like off the bat to peg boys, but I would expect her to be more dominant. Because
But I think I just don't really see her as a sexual person. Like, I was actually just surprised she had the sex scene at all.
Fair enough. I think I was more surprised that we didn't see a full-on sex scene with Beck and Peach, because I kind of expected that, especially when all the drugs came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect Pete. Maybe it was like Peach getting her frustration out that she couldn't have sex with Beck.
Maybe.
And it was like, this is the way I'm gonna like
maybe
find some satisfaction.
Because I did think, like, why is Peach, like, I wouldn't have expected Peach to carry on once Beck was out. I thought Peach would be like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
Same.
But yeah, that might be the reason why. But also, surely Beck knows that Peach fancies her, because it's really obvious that when they get drunk and they start kissing, Beck's like, oh, you always do this, or something. Like, she says something that makes it really obvious that this is not the first time that Peach is trying it on.
Yeah.
Is she just like doing that because her ego needs it? Because Beck's got a massive bruised ego. I hate her so much.
I would never have guessed. You've said so many lovely things about her so far. I think it's more that like she has such low self-worth, and that like Peach is so manipulative. Like, she'll fake suicides and all of this kind of stuff in order to like keep Beck on a short leash. And Beck has such a low self-worth that she'd rather stay with someone that like she hates rather than try and like do something different for herself. Like, that's more how I read it.
But don't you think it's also her ego just being like, because she at least she knows Peach will always be after her in a way, so that makes her feel better.
Yeah, I see what you mean, because it is also like, if you know that that Peach is going to do that when you're getting drunk and whatnot, it's like that's a safe bet for some sort of intimacy and some sort of attention. But maybe it's more of a subconscious thing than a conscious thing.
I don't think Beck is like sat around thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get in a situation where Peach can try and kiss me so I can turn her down and feel better about myself. What did you think when Joe like starts going down on Beck in the middle of fucking IKEA or wherever they were?
I was so taken aback, because I was like, hang on a minute, they are just in a shop. But then Beck was getting into it, and I was like, well, maybe this is her thing. And then no, she wasn't into it. But
I hate
it did
that.
take me by
like,
surprise.
She was so into it, and then she's such a dick.
Yeah, it was very annoying. I feel like Beck and Yasmin are quite similar, like Yasmin from Industry, in the sense that like they like to see themselves as more sexually adventurous than they actually are. And then when someone like matches their level, they sort of pull away. And like Beck was definitely that way when she was like giving out the vibes of like, yes, I'm very adventurous, I like all this stuff, but then actually she's not like that, but she doesn't actually know herself well enough to really say what she wants or know what she wants.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I know I've been hating on Beck a lot, and she's not, you know, the worst person ever. But she also is. No, but she.
This is just the I hate Beck
she's
show.
Just so shallow, and it's all about. Again, I think it's all about what's cool. Like when you see the kind of crowd she hangs out with, and like how she talks about Karen when she runs into Joe and Karen. And it's like, you really think you're much better than Karen, like.
And also the fact that she cheated on her therapist, cheated on Joe with her therapist, and then, and then has the like audacity when she breaks up with Joe to then be jealous of Karen, to be like, I think Karen was too good for Joe. Like, Karen,
100%, yeah. And like Karen is a very, very, very different kind of person to Joe, which is why it worked so well, but also why it would have never worked, because obviously they're not a match, which is the only reason why he wasn't killing anyone when he was with her. But I do think Karen was great, and she definitely was way too good for Joe. And also, the first sex scene they have is quite hot.
It is. I love that she just like just come out of her apartment and is like, you come in here right now.
Yeah, he's walking home and
Basically.
she's like waiting for him outside his apartment,
Yeah,
which was great.
that was really hot.
But one thing that was weird,
Mhm.
she literally gets up right after they're done having sex and goes into the shower. And I found that a little bit weird, but fair enough. But it's his flat. Like, she doesn't even say, oh, I'm going
yeah.
to shower, or can I go shower? She literally gets up and goes straight into the shower.
Or
and I'm like,
even, do you have a spare towel?
yeah, exactly.
Like, that was just the first thing that
Exactly.
came into my head.
No, exactly. And I found that very strange to just be like, they've literally talked once before in their entire life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know they've just slept together, but they don't
Yeah.
really know each other. I found that really weird, but that's maybe
Yeah,
what people
yeah.
do. I don't know. But yeah, I think even in their sex scene, you can just tell that she's just the opposite of Beck. Like, she seems so.
Yeah.
I think Beck in the sex scenes is definitely quite. To me, it seems like she's not in it, and she's probably putting on a bit of a show. Like, I think she's
Yes.
acting the way she thinks she should act more than actually being into
Definitely.
it.
Karen seems to like take charge a lot more, and is like a lot more like she just exudes a lot more comfortability.
Yeah.
And it's like she just especially in their interactions afterwards, it's just like, this is who she is, and there's no pretense and
there's no game, there's no
yes, it's just like, I want sex, I want you, let's go now.
Yeah, Beck's just a bit immature, I think, and that's fine.
Yes.
But she's very high schooly about everything. And actually,
Yeah.
like, her whole like clique of friends is such a high school Mean Girls trope. And you know, she's just like, yeah, she's like a 17-year-old American teen drama main character, basically.
Yeah.
I do really like the detail when they have sex on the boat. First of all, what is this boat? Why is there no one else on the boat?
Exactly.
Is this a sex boat that you rent when you need to have sex on the boat? I just don't know. I want more details.
Yeah, because it seems to be a public setting, because Joe is like, there is no way that something's going to happen because we are in like a public setting. But then there's absolutely no one on the boat at all.
No.
What the fuck?
I love that because she's on top of him, when she like sits back down, her knees are really red from the chairs. I feel like that's the kind of thing that in TV shows, because potentially that shot wasn't when she was actually on her knees for all that time, so her knees might not have actually been red. I feel like that's the kind of thing sometimes people forget, and that really adds realism to it, because her knees would be red as fuck, because those chairs are like literally metal. So I thought that was really, really good. Props to whoever was in charge of this. Whoever you are, you did a great job. That really helped me getting into the scene.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that, but that is like a really good detail, because it's
such a good detail.
Yeah, because then you're like, oh yes, this makes it so much more believable, and I feel like I've actually been in this scene.
Actually, we need to talk about condoms, because why is no one wearing condoms on this show? Like, Joe is literally having sex with so many people. I mean, I know he's killing people, and you know, maybe
I know there's murder and stuff.
His sex safety is maybe not his bigger concern. Maybe like going to prison or not going to prison is number one, and catching herpes or not catching herpes is number two. But I find it really weird that it's because You is quite a modern, open-minded show in a lot of ways. Like, they're definitely talking a lot about, you know, like all sorts of issues. You kind of feel like they would have that kind of thing where it's like, oh, and let's also use condoms because that's something that, you know, people should do or whatever.
Yeah, the only time you do see a condom is in season 3 with Sherry, when they're having the like swingers party. But because when you mentioned it over voice note a while ago about condoms, I was like really looking out for it, and that was the only time. And it was also really surprising because it was like with people that he's just like randomly hooking up with, or even like love randomly hooking up with, you're like, guys, safety, not just pregnancy, but also STIs.
Love does say that she used condoms with Milo because she says that's how she knows that the father is Joe. But you
don't see it.
No.
And with Theo, they don't.
Definitely
then
don't.
There's also the scare with her being pregnant.
As well. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like Joe is somehow, even though Joe is literally going around on a murder rampage, I don't know why, but in my mind is the kind of responsible person who would use condoms.
Well, to be fair, it would like kind of make sense with his paradoxical personality, because he's
Yeah.
like ethical in some ways, like the way he looks after the Paco and Ellie.
Yeah. When he fantasizes about having sex with Love at the back of the shop, first of all, I completely thought it was happening. Like at first.
Same.
Really tricked me on this one. But how interesting is it that he was super spot on with what Love is actually like in bed? Because she's really like quite dominating and she's really confident in bed, and he pictures her doing all the kind of things that she actually does in real life. Like even the way I feel like Love always like smiles or laughs when she's having sex, and he completely sees her like this. Now obviously I don't know how much of it is just the actress playing a sex scene, and but surely she was directed, so I'm sure it wasn't just an accident. But I think it's very interesting that Joe pictures her that way, especially because I mean, at that point, he really doesn't know her enough to know what she would be like in bed, or like to try and take a guess. And when you see what Beck was like, I think she wasn't like that at all. Like, I think Beck is very, very, very different in bed than Love is. So
definitely,
you could have kind of pictured her in a more similar way than Beck, because she's the last person that he slept with or whatever, or his last obsession before Love. But he actually imagines her pretty much exactly as she is. I found it really
that's such a good point. That is really interesting, because like Beck was so different. Beck, like I feel like in his fantasies of Beck was quite dominant, but not in like when it actually came to it wasn't the same. So maybe that's what he wanted, and that's why he was so attracted to Beck. Love her, how she presents herself to the world is quite I don't want to say passive, but seems very like she's very sweet and cherub-like, and like has this quite innocent quality to her.
Yes.
Obviously in bed, I love that she straight away goes for his neck. She's like, and there's moments where she just like growls at him, and like she kind of takes you by surprise. And I think that does really well to kind of lead you into the reveal at the end where she's actually a murderer. Because you sort of don't really know where you stand with Love. I think those sex scenes were really surprising to me, because I was like, oh, this kind of reveals a part of her personality that you don't really see in the everyday, which is what I really enjoyed.
Yeah, same.
And also the actress is really hot, so
I don't think I should talk about how obsessed I am with this actress, because I might
like
just
Joe
sound like
level
Joe.
Obsessed.
Like, I'm so obsessed with her. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Well, it's interesting what you're saying about him fantasizing about Beck, and then when they have sex, she's different. Because to me, what I thought when he's quite spot on with Love, I was thinking like Joe is actually a really good judge of character, and he reads people really well, which he does. Like in so many situations, you hear his thoughts, and he's very like, because he pays attention to so many details and everything, he actually reads people like really well. So I kind of thought, even though he's not talked to Love that much, he can already tell because Love does come across as confident, I'd say. Not like she's gonna strangle you in bed confident, but you know, she does come, like the first time she talks to him, she approaches him, which I found that line super cringe, when she's like, does this bitch look like a butt? Like, it's just like that, definitely trying to make her like the quirky girl who's like really fun. But I don't think
like one of the guys.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think they did that too much with her character. I feel like it's more like her introduction, but then when you see her like past that line, they've not really gone that way with her. But she definitely comes across as someone who knows what she wants and isn't afraid to ask for it. And you know, like the way she like calls him when she wants to call him, and she's literally the opposite of Beck.
And also when she turns up at his place, she's very surprising in the sense of her like almost like her stalker tendencies, because she has like, which, okay, I know I'm like cross-sectioning season 1, season 2, season 3, but it does kind of annoy me how upset Joe gets at Love, because I'm like, how much more interesting would it have been for him to be like, oh my god, I've met my match, let's go on an obsessive murderous spree together. Let's like take on this world and be like two insane weirdos who like are fine murdering people and being obsessed with people.
Yep, literally. That would have been my favorite thing, because that's the reason I love the start of season 3 so much, because I feel like the first half of season 3 it looks like it might go into that direction. Like past the first episode where he's super bored of her, but once the therapist is like work as a team, I think they actually do have a couple of episodes where even just when they're burying Natalie, which is my favorite scene because they've got the baby with them and it's just like so messy, and that's exactly the kind of dark humor that I live for.
Yeah, you see, I didn't like how quickly he got obsessed with someone else. That where I was just like, this is just setting up for another season. And then I also felt like it moved too quickly with Natalie moving in on him, like especially with him being obsessed with Natalie to then him moving, like them doing shit that all happened in the first episode. And I'm like, you spent an entire season on Beck.
No, yeah, for sure. But you have to remember that in the first episode, they've already been living in Madrelinda for like, so their baby is 6 months old and we see them moving in when she's pregnant. So it's almost a year. And Natalie has been like his neighbor for all that time. So it might have been like, he's definitely not just noticed her in the first episode, because he notices her when Love is pregnant. So it's actually quite a long time after that something happens.
I guess so, but it just doesn't feel like that in terms of show
because
time.
We don't see it. Yeah. So what, sorry, I'm just gonna jump back to season 2 for a second, because what when they do have sex for the first time, Love and Joe, and she's like fully dominating, putting a tie in his mouth, strangling him and stuff. What did you make of her? What did you make of her? Like, I mean, you kind of did touch upon that already, but were you really surprised? Did you think, like, what did you think of it? Did you think that? Well, I'm just gonna shut up and let you answer instead of asking you the same thing 7 times.
Well, I really enjoy how like her sexual personality is so different from like her public facing personality. And I also really enjoy, is it with Love, the sex scene where they have to be quiet? Is that the one where she puts the tie in his mouth and then he's like putting his hand up against her? That was so hot. I really enjoyed that sex scene, especially with like 40 next door.
I think it's because I'm an only child, but I really have a weird twisted obsession with like fucked up family dynamics between siblings, and I'm and it's 100% because I'm an only child. Like if I had a brother, I would absolutely be puking at myself right now. But I just love that weird like incestuous vibe between Love and 40, because you know they don't actually want to have sex and they won't do it, so it's fine. But like that whole scene where 40 is on the phone to Love and Love is like giving Joe a hand job and then he starts touching her as well.
Yeah.
I was like, why is it so much hotter than if she wasn't on the phone with 40? This is not normal.
But it's also, that's also the like wrongness of it. Like I think the Everly adds like an extra layer, the fact she's talking to a sibling.
But if she was talking to a parent, but that's why I'm thinking it comes from me being an only child, because if she was talking to her mom or her dad, I'd be a bit more like, oh no, this is horrible. This is where I draw the line.
What about a cousin?
A cousin's fine. It wouldn't be as hot as a twin brother, but it'd be more acceptable. So in the first season, like as we said, Joe sleeps with Karen straight after breaking up with Beck. And then in the second season, he sleeps with Delilah straight after breaking up with Love. Like same night.
He has a pattern.
Joe? A pattern? That doesn't sound like him at all. That guy doesn't have patterns ever about anything. But it's funny how he just goes for the opposite to both girls each time, because Delilah is kind of the opposite of Love, isn't she? Like she's very much...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I feel like Delilah in a way could match him. Like the fact that they had this like basis of friendship meant that they could spar with each other.
Exactly.
Which he needs someone to keep him in check.
Exactly. But yeah, I think I was disappointed when we didn't see the first time him and Delilah have sex. But then the second time against the wall in the street was really hot until the police came and interrupted it, which was really rude of them.
How dare they?
Super
How
rude.
very dare they? That
So
was really hot.
That was fun. Yeah. Do you want to move on to season 3?
Yeah, let's get into it.
When Joe and Love have sex for the first time, which is the first time they're having sex in like a really long time.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's thinking about Natalie and he's holding her knickers, which we don't know until later on in the episode. I think that's the first time we see him being more dominant with Love. They're going upstairs and he like pushes her against the wall and she takes her knickers down and he has sex with her from behind against the wall. Really hot. But
that was really hot.
I feel like usually when they have sex, it's like in bed, she's on top. She's usually a lot more in control, whereas this time it looked like he was really going for it and she was
so
kind
true.
of just letting it happen. And I think it's really interesting that Joe, because we've not actually talked about what Joe is like in bed, but he's quite like, I don't know, not passive, but I don't think he's very...
He is quite passive. Yeah, because he's like, he very much enjoys kind of watching the woman have pleasure, but also very much being a part of that. So he wants to be like, dominated.
It's not like it's not like he just lies there and does nothing. But I'd say, and especially with Love, it's more she's in charge. And like that time, he's the one who initiates and he's definitely the one in charge. But then we find out that he was like thinking about Natalie the whole time. Do you think the reason why Love almost let him dominate her is because she could tell that he wasn't thinking about, like, they was thinking of someone else and that they weren't in a good place? Because when you find out that when she finds the knickers, you see the flashback of him holding the knickers while having sex with her, and you see Love looking at that. So I'm pretty sure she saw that he was holding the knickers, and her face kind of changes. And it's the first time Love doesn't look like she's completely into it. Like, it's the first sex scene where Love looks a bit like distracted.
Maybe. So then it's like when they have sex again and she's on top, it's her way to like regain that power.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
That would make sense, because
obviously not that you can't be confident and, you know, being dominated, because you definitely can.
Yeah. Well, she could also tell, like, when they were having the swingers party with Sherry, and then when he was having sex with her, that she was like, you were thinking of someone else. Like, I can tell. Like, she's very observant.
Deceptive,
I also find I also found it really funny when Marianne and Joe kiss for the first time, and Joe in a monologue goes, "Love's gonna kill you." Like, that really made me laugh,
and also so accurate. I thought it was really interesting, and I think it's really, this is exactly the kind of sex scenes that we started this podcast for. Literally, like I feel like the sex scenes that we see of Love tell us so much about her character, her mindset.
So much.
So can we talk about Love and Theo for a little bit?
Yes, please.
Like, what did you make of the whole storyline?
So the storyline really annoyed me, because it is like it didn't annoy me, actually. It was just more like, Theo, get the fucking hint. How old are you meant to be? Because I do not believe you are 19. So it's like I had to suspend my disbelief quite a bit, because I was just like, I know that you're a couple of years, or like you're older than the actress. Like that's all that matters. And I can see it. Like he's got a baby face, but that's about it. But his desperation was like quite palpable. But I found like the first time they have sex on the side of the road to be so awkward and clumsy and clunky. Like, I was quite sad we didn't see more of it, but it was like kind of,
none of them. Twice they have sex, and
that made me sad, because I was just like, with how desperate he is to like be with her, it's like, I want to see that. I want to see like that happen and that come together.
Do you think it was good?
No.
Fair Fair enough.
I know, but I think he thought he was good because it probably felt really good for him because of the build up. But I think maybe it would have been like a Joe and Beck first time situation. What do you think?
I think you're not giving our boy Theo a lot of credit here. No, I don't think it was the best sex of her life. Just because he's young and he's probably got a lot to, learn. But I think he's definitely like, he probably was trying his best not to get overexcited. But I don't know. He's got like I don't know. I actually really like Theo. I know everyone hates him, which is fair enough. I get that he's very insistent. Like, I hate, like, the first time he meets her and he's like, and you've got like a banging body or whatever. I'm like, who wrote this line? No 19-year-old would say that. No one any age would say that, but definitely not a 19-year-old. And obviously, yeah, he keeps on flirting with her and she keeps on telling him, stop flirting with me. But I'm sorry, she's also totally keeping the door open to things happening. Like, she's completely
100%. She was giving him so many mixed signals. Like, yeah, she was like, oh, we are just friends, but then also I'm going to invite you to be at the shop with me by myself and pay for your Uber rides, kind of be in a mum position, but also, because that's the thing, she was like in a mum position but also in a girlfriend position.
Well, she was treating him like he was 40. Like, I think she was just like, this is my new 40, but this one I can actually have sex with. So it was like 40 plus.
True, that is very true actually.
But yeah, sorry, just going back to her having sex with him, I also think it makes, like, obviously it's bad that she's cheating on Joe because cheating is bad and blah blah blah, but I definitely get where she comes from, in the sense that obviously he actually wants her. Like, the first time she has sex with him is when Joe can't get it up, and she definitely feels like, and she can tell he's disinterested. It's not like, I can't get it up but I really want you, which I'm sure can happen. Like, this is like, Joe is not interested in having sex with her, and she can obviously tell, and she feels rejected, and she's just had a baby. Like, I don't know, I feel like love, which she says herself, like, she doesn't really know who she is. And I think from season 2 to season 3, Love is a completely different person. Like, her character is like barely recognizable. I actually think the sex scenes is the only place where I'm like, yeah, she's the same from one season to the next. Like, I recognize her, but otherwise, like, all of her best friends from LA, like that guy that she's been friends for 10 years, like, gone. But she does seem really lonely, so much so that I think Theo is literally the only person she can talk to as well. So, it's just I don't know, she was just this really like fun, lively character in season 2, and then season 3 she becomes this really impulsive person who just keeps on killing people all the time.
It really annoyed me how they sort of really shifted her character, that suddenly she became this super impulsive, will kill on a whim. Like, with 40, her killing the au pair, that was really for like a protection standpoint. That was like from her looking out for her brother and being like, this is not okay. So it was like where Joe was coming from with his like fucked up mentality. And the stuff with Delilah was a little bit impulsive, but then it's like,
well, I think the stuff with Delilah was another, and Candace was another protection thing. She was just protecting Joe.
No, that's true actually, she was just protecting Joe. But then in season 3 it's like, oh, you
disagree with
off me? Let me fucking kill you. And like, oh, I also hated like the anti-vax storyline, because I was like, it was so hammed in. There was just no conversation about it. And I also feel like it just kind of, because COVID and vaccinations and all of that, it was just like a way to push an agenda rather than like have a conversation. Whereas like, do you really need your media to always have a conversation? That's a conversation for another day.
Actually, one thing I wanted to say about Joe earlier and then completely forgot, when we were talking about how it would have been so much better if he was like, great, I've met my match, now we can go on our little murder holidays together. I do think, as much as I would have absolutely loved for that to happen, I do think it actually makes a lot of sense for it not to have happened. I can't believe I didn't make this point earlier, because it was way more the time for it. But I think Joe falls in love with the fantasies. Like, he doesn't fall in love with any of the people. He doesn't love Beck. He doesn't love Love. Like, he's he literally falls in love with them after seeing them in the street once. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like he's building up
Yeah.
this entire image of them. And Love being a murderer is like, especially because he doesn't see himself as one, because he thinks that everything that he does is justified and is a really good person who sometimes has to kill bad people. And to him, Delilah was obviously not a bad person, and he was actually, I think he genuinely was going to release her, and he genuinely was hoping she wouldn't tell anyone and everything. So I think that completely shattered his image of Love. And because the image of Love was the most important thing to Joe, I think it actually does make sense with his personality that would put him off that much. I don't think it would have.
Yeah.
He can't love someone. Do you know what I mean?
No, that is true, because he does. You're so right that he doesn't fall in love. Like, he falls in love with this idea that he's created of these people. Like, none of them are, except I'd say actually Marianne. I'd say her image is quite real of like who he thinks she is.
Yeah, but again, I'm pretty sure that if Marianne ends up not being 100% exactly what he wants, or, you know, having like not needing him anymore for whatever reason, his interest will drop.
True.
He'll start being like a bit weird about it. Like, and that's the thing as well. Like, Love murders the people who she needs to murder. So actually, he doesn't need to protect her. She literally protects them. Like, that, she's the one who protected him. That's not attractive to him.
Yeah. No, that is very true.
Who is the girl? I mean, I know you're not gonna know, but who the fuck is the girl who's completely naked in the garden, who's blowing Theo? Like, why is she completely naked outside? Like, where are her clothes? Where's Theo's dad? Why are they doing? Well, I mean, I know why they're doing this in the garden so that Love can see.
Yeah,
but
I didn't even notice that she was completely naked. I was just like so taken aback by her giving a blowjob in like the back garden, especially when Theo's dad has all the cameras.
Maybe I'm on drugs and maybe it's not, maybe she wasn't naked, but either way, that's quite a risky move. And also, who is she? Like, the whole point is Theo doesn't have anyone, he doesn't know anyone, but then he finds this girl to like blow him.
Yeah, maybe it's just like a Tinder date.
Maybe.
Because he's not bad looking. He's a very
he's so hot, yeah. Second half of season 3, I literally, on my rewatch, I just fast forwarded every single Joe scenes apart from the sex scenes. I found it so boring. Marianne is just like, because it's just the classic, and I know that's the whole point of the show and that's his pattern, but it's just like another victim of whatever who needs help. I'm just like, at this point, I'm just so done with Joe finding girls who, like, I don't care anymore. I don't care about all these girls. Marianne's probably gonna die like in the first episodes of next season, and then there's gonna be another one.
Yeah,
that's why I love Love so much. It's not just because I have a massive crush on her. It's also because by her not dying at the end of season 2 and turning up to be just as crazy as Joe is, she completely stepped out. I don't think she was like a massive victim to begin with anyway. Like, she didn't come with the kind of baggage that Beck came with. But, you know, she had like the whole fucked up family dynamic she had to look after. She was more like a carer who needed someone to look after her than she was a victim. But then it's like, well, actually, she doesn't really need someone to look after her. She looks after herself really well, like killing lots of people. And that made her so much more interesting to me. And in season 3, even though she didn't have the kind of the same charismatic quality that I liked in season 2, I do still think that actually when she's with Theo, you still see hints of it. And I just thought she was so much more interesting. So I genuinely, the second half of season 3, I only enjoyed watching Love's scenes and Love. And I could have done with a bit less of a mom. Like, I'm not really that bothered about a mom. But Love and Theo and just Love in general, I thought was so much more interesting than Joe. And Marianne is just like another version of whatever Joe's into, which again makes sense. But I'm just kind of done by this point.
I see your point, because like Marianne really is like, again, the tortured artist who has like a clouded past. I think like she is she does play into that pattern, but I think because I really like the actress, I like could see past that.
That's fair enough.
But it's such a pattern, and like this is also something that I didn't enjoy. Like, I also want to say that I agree with like Love. Like, the thing even though I didn't enjoy her shift of character to being impulsive in season 3, I did really enjoy it kind of subverting your expectations, that you kind of expected Love to be like, oh shit, he's a murderer and all of this, how terrible, and do like a Beck. But instead she was like, nah, I'm in on this. I'm also a murderer. Watch me murder more people.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like enjoy in terms of Joe was like, in season 1, his backstory doesn't really come into play much.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, it's because this guy used to lock me in here and this is how you show love. But it kind of didn't excuse his behavior or explain his behavior. It was just like, there's some fucked up shit that's happened, and also Joe is a bit weird in the head. But then with season 2 and 3, and it's just like so much of him as a kid being like, oh no, I must protect those I love by killing people, and also look how terrible it was to grow up in the system, blah 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 blah. It just felt like it was no longer a subversion.
Yeah. I would argue that Love was always impulsive, though. It's just that she wasn't shown killing people for impulsivity, because of her impulsivity. But there's no telling it that she didn't kill anyone during season 2, and we just didn't know it. But
True.
I also don't think there was anyone for her to kill during season 2, because there was no one that was representing a threat really to her and Joe at that point. But she was impulsive, like I said earlier, like which is part of her confidence and no bullshit, I'm not playing game kind of thing, like where she calls Joe when she wants to call Joe, when he tells her that he cancels on he can't come to lunch, she like calls him straight away, and she's like, oh blah blah, blah. Like I think she's not, I can't remember, but like she does something and he's like, oh, and she's like, yeah, I just wanted to like see you or whatever. Like she doesn't really think things through that much. So then I guess it makes sense that when you apply it to the murderous mind, she doesn't really think that through either. But I think
that is true.
It is in character. It's just super jarring because we don't see her kill anyone for a whole season, and then suddenly it's like she just kills everyone. So it feels weird.
Yeah.
I forgot about this, but I made a note that says basically Love punishes Joe every time he can't get hard by cheating on him. So I forgot that the second time is when she tries to go down on him in the kitchen, and then she literally has sex with Theo in the same place than where she's been rejected by Joe. And I think that's obviously not an accident.
Yeah, because she's just like, well, fuck you then, I'm gonna get off with my little toy boy.
Exactly. Why do you think they don't show their sex scenes with Theo?
Do you think it's because of the fact that he's meant to be 19?
I think so.
And I
feel like it would be, because I don't know why else, but like the actor is obviously not 19, so I'm like, well, who cares? But I bet people would have cared, because people already care and we don't even see it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that
is very true.
But yeah, I think that's a shame, because I would have liked to see, because I think you're right, it probably would have been a bit awkward, but I would have liked to see what Love was like. I would have liked to see whether she was as dominating as she is with Joe, or does she have a more like caring side to her because she kind of sees him as 40, or do you know what I mean? I think that would have been interesting.
I think because the way that she like the scene ends is like her on the ground and him on top. And I wonder then if that would have continued, because I think maybe she would have been more like resigned to it, or like, as you say, in like a more caring kind of way. Because with Joe, it's like, it's obvious that he's only really with her because of Henry. So it's like, again, her way of getting back into control, her way of like feeling like she has some sort of power in that situation.
I love that Sherry is literally the same in bed as she is in life. Like she's super forceful and aggressive and in control. She's so exactly
and loud.
What I would have pictured. Yeah, exactly. Which I enjoyed. I thought that was
and
good.
I also enjoyed Carrie. I really like when the season 3 first started, I hated Sherry and I hated Carrie. By the end of it, I loved them both.
Yeah, I think that's like everyone, including me. Like, definitely.
But I just love when they're like preparing and he's wanking off watching himself.
Also, did he come on Love and Joe's Mirror?
Is it a Rob and
Rob and
Yasmin's
situation. Oh, Sherry would so tell him to eat it. Like, I can see it.
100%. 100%.
I do feel like, you know, when they put Carrie and Sherry in the cage and then they have sex and it's like really, really good. And they're like, I think that was the best sex ever. And Joe says in his inner monologue, like, our love language is violence.
Yeah.
I think that might be the first time that they completely embrace the fact that they are violent people, and without trying to like fight it or deny it or justify it and being like, yeah, but we were right to because of whatever.
Yeah, and again, it would have been great for them to then go, oh, this is why, and let's go on a murder spree.
Like I thought this was gonna happen when they say like that was the best sex ever. I thought Joe was gonna be like, yeah, actually we get each other. No one else is gonna get me like this, and I'm not gonna get anyone else like this. And fuck Marianne, let's get it on. Oh, we didn't talk about Joe's masturbation. Like
when he does it in season 1, just outside of Beck's house.
I know.
And like, how does no one see?
How does no one see? But
Honestly,
I love the fact that they addressed it, and that's what helps him out with the police in season 3, because he literally constantly masturbates in public places, and I felt like that was a really tongue-in-cheek thing of like, it was really funny of the show to like sort of address it and make that his get out of jail card, but also he needs to fucking stop. Like, this is not normal.
Oh my god,
because, you know, murdering people is fine, masturbating in public is what he needs to stop doing. This is where
I draw the line.
This is where I draw the line.
I also think it was funny in season 3 how they kind of addressed the fact that he can like wear a baseball cap in public, and just like get away with shit, and then like Marianne's I knew you were there.
That was really funny.
I enjoyed that.
That guy was a dick.
Such a dick.
But I didn't feel very invested. Like, I didn't really care. Like, whereas in season 2, the whole Henderson storyline, I was really invested in, because I felt like it was really well done, that for the longest time, you didn't really know. Like, obviously, you didn't really have any reason not to believe Delilah. So I was like, no, surely that is true. But also, maybe it wasn't actually him. Maybe it was whatever, because he does such a good job. And with Joe doubting as well, it really makes you doubt. And I thought it was really well done. Exactly.
But I also think that like with Ryan, he was too much of a cartoon villain. Like, there was so many ways that he was terrible that it sort of felt like he wasn't a believable character anymore.
That's so true, actually. They didn't really make you ever not root for him, but see a side of him where you're like, oh, he's not that bad. And that really doesn't help.
No, because I think this is something that I enjoyed about the show, was this feeling of confliction. Don't even know if that's a real word, but it is now. Like, I don't like to be spoon-fed my characters. I like to feel like there's this element that they're very flawed, but also that, like, obviously with Joe, he's such a terrible person, but he feels like he's a great person. And I really enjoy, as a watcher, feeling that conflicted emotion of like how I'm meant to feel, because it adds to that uneasiness of the show. So it was like to have someone who was so blatantly villainous.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I have some questions. So, what was your favorite sex scene in the entire show, all 3 seasons put together?
Oh, up there is definitely the first time Love and Joe have sex. Then I enjoy the montage with Beck when they cheats on Karen. And then I think when they really trust each other, like not after they've killed or they've put Carrie and Thingy in the cage, but when they hit a point with therapy and they have sex. I really enjoy that one. What about you?
Definitely the first time him and Love have sex. Like, I have watched this scene way too many times.
I love this.
I think this might be one of my favorite sex scene of TV. Like, it's definitely in the top 5 of my favorite TV sex scenes of all time. I'm so sad that the other things she's been in are like super scary, because I really can't watch them because I'm a child.
I would say that The Haunting of Bly Manor isn't so scary.
No, I've tried watching it. I can't watch it.
Oh.
So yeah, that's the biggest tragedy of my life. All I can do is like Google a name
and like watch trailers or like
and
be like, oh.
steals from the things where it's not too scary. But yeah, that's definitely my favorite sex scene of the show, 100%. They did have some good ones in season 3, but nothing can compare with that one.
That was really hot.
How hot is the show? Scale from 1 to 10.
Ooh, I'll say like an 8. Is that your same?
Yeah, probably, because the sex scenes are really sexy. And
They are.
and there's a lot of them, so yeah, probably an 8. But it's funny because I don't think of it as that. Like, before rewatching with the sex scenes in mind, apart from the sex scene between Love and Joe, which that was always from the first time I saw it, like, up there. But I would have probably assumed it would have been like a 5 or a 6, but actually it's way more than that. Agreed.
It is, because I think like they do really, the characters have very good chemistry together. So when you watch them having sex, it's like very, you get to watch that chemistry in action.
Exactly. What are we going to talk about next time?
We're talking about 50 Shades of Grey.
I'm actually so excited to talk about something that is not good, but just something we can be, kind of like when we talked about the Gossip Girl reboot. It was really fun.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like I enjoy talking about stuff where it's just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It'd be good to watch a movie this time instead of 3
be.
seasons in like 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it will be good. All right. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait. And I'll see you next time.
See you next time.